Hi, I'm Brandon from CopilotKit. Today I'd like to show you our template for building powerful AGUI canvas experiences using LangGraph with Python. The CopilotKit LangGraph AGUI Canvas Starter template showcases how to build production-ready AI applications that maintain consistent state between the UI and an AI agent. This solves common problems like AI hallucinations between UI state, race conditions between user edits and AI updates, complex multi-step operations with progress tracking, and maintaining a ground truth in distributed systems. The canvas metaphor we're using in this template is perfect for demonstrating CRUD operations, real-time synchronization, and complex state management. It's a pattern that can be adapted for project management, CRM systems, content creation tools, and much more. This template achieves first-class bidirectional state synchronization between AI and UI, shows how to build an AI-powered Canvas app with real-time updates, demonstrates multi-step planning and visual progress tracking, and solves the ground truth problem in AI applications. To get started, click the Use This Template button in the top right corner of the repository and click Create a New Repository. Here you can configure the settings for your new repository that you're going to be creating. You're starting with this template that we just selected. You can choose whether or not to include any other branches other than the main branch. You can choose which owner the repository will be under, either your user or an organization you're a part of, the name for that repository, an optional description, whether you'd like that public or private, and optionally you can always provide a prompt for GitHub Copilot. For our use case here, I'm going to simply call this AGUI Canvas, and I'm going to create the repository. Now that we've successfully generated a new repository using our template, we can scroll down to the Getting Started section of this repository and follow the steps. First, we want to install all of our dependencies using pnpm install, or whatever the install script is for your preferred package manager. This is going to install all the node modules as well as the Python dependencies using our post install script, which manages the Python side of things alongside our regular node modules installations. Once that's complete, you want to add your OpenAI API key to your env file under the agent directory, which you can do following this script here. And finally, you'll want to start your local development server. You can do this simply using the dev script, but you can also separate the UI from the agent if you'd like by running dev:/UI and dev:/agent. Once you've started your local development server, you can visit the demo at localhost port 3000 and immediately begin prompting. For this example, I'll be using a prompt which requires the agent to perform multiple steps, so I can demo how that agent can create steps. So for this process, it's going to attempt to create a project card, entity card, note card, and a chart card, and then add details to each of those. So we can see the project card has been completed, the entity card has been completed, and it's carrying on to the note card and the chart card. Sometimes this takes a second, so I'll go ahead and speed this up. All right, so we can now see that the agent has performed the steps that we requested. It's created all 4 of those cards, and not only do those cards exist here in the UI, but we are also able to see the active state of the UI here in JSON format as well. So as the agent or as the user changes that data, for instance, if I were to change this to project beta, I will actively see that reflected here, and the agent holds the same state. What is the name of our project card now? Project beta, updated because of the user update. Some design philosophies we were shooting for here was to be state first, so the agent always uses shared state as the source of truth, which is never cached, strict grounding to prevent hallucinations about the canvas content, loop control to prevent infinite operations, and human in the loop to ask when operations are ambiguous. So if I were to ask the agent, create a new item, now the agent is going to recognize that an item can be of one of 4 types: a project, entity, note, or chart, and asks me to specify. So if I say chart now, we will see a new chart item added to our data right here at the bottom, item 0005, which we'll also see reflected in the UI. Now let's head back to the repository to take a deeper look at what's happening under the hood here. If we take a look at the README file, we'll see a quick architecture overview as to how this app is actually built and organized. We have the front end being handled by Next.js, where we have the page TSX file, which manages the majority of the state and pulls in different components. And then we pass that through the Copilot runtime to our LangGraph agent, which is in the agent.py file, which manages its tooling, the agent state and CopilotKit state, and uses GPT-4o as its model. We can also see a brief overview of how the data flow takes place. Now let's take a look at the code. You can see in the source of our project that we have a source app directory, which maintains most of the source for our user-facing client application, and an agent directory, which handles the agent code for our Python implementation of LangGraph. So if I look at agent.py, you'll see everything in here regarding our tooling, around the planning, our grounding steps, how we interpret the information from the client, and hand that to our agent. And there's a lot in here about grounding and how we define what that source of truth is. Most of this you can just kind of peruse through and see how this is set up. And we're going to move on to the page TSX file. Now right off the bat, you'll see we're using several hooks from CopilotKit. We're using useCoagent to set up our agent state. We're using useCopilotAction to set up our client-facing tools. We're using useCoagent state render to render our process, our plan between those steps when we're working through a plan, additional instructions to add additional grounding to the agent, and use LangGraph interrupt to request information from the user before continuing, in the case where there is ambiguity like we saw in the demo. In addition to those hooks, we're also using several components from CopilotKit. We're using Copilot Chat and Copilot Pop-up reactively to switch between a sidebar chat experience using Copilot Chat on desktop experiences and a Copilot Pop-up for a pop-up experience on mobile when there isn't as much space. We are using several UI components from ShadCN UI, as well as some of our own components to manage the different pieces of this application. In addition to UI-specific components, we're also managing our state and different pieces of our canvas in the lib canvas state directory. So if we take a look at that, we'll see we have this state TS file where we manage what the state looks like and the different options. And moving on to our types, these are the TypeScript types that we use throughout our project in our page file, as well as other TypeScript files for things such as our checklist items, link items, project data, entity data, note data, chart metrics, chart data, item data, etc. These are all the different types that we're using for our item types, for the sub-item types, and everything else that we would use related to the canvas specifically. Our updates.ts file provides foundational functions for both user-invoked functions in the UI of the application, as well as the actions that we're creating for the agent. So both of those use the same source of truth, the same functions to create changes on that application to create and kind of ensure consistency between agent actions and user actions. Now, very importantly, when you set up this repository for the first time, make sure that you create your env.local file. So that's taking the same .env.local.example file here and duplicating that without the .example suffix, and completing this with your Copilot Cloud public API key if you need access to Copilot Cloud. And similarly, you also want to make sure that you complete your .env file in your agent directory. So this is where you'll add your OpenAI API key, your Langsmith API key, and your LangGraph development URL, all of which are going to be very important when you deploy this application. We hope that this template serves as a strong foundation for your AGUI Canvas applications. If you have ideas for improvements or encounter any issues while using the template, please don't hesitate to open an issue or a pull request on the source repository. We can't wait to see what you build.